Why should we help you with the funeral costs when you're not even real family? The question hung in the air of the lawyer's office, and Kara Lawson felt her chest tighten. Her adoptive aunt, Patricia, sat across from her with arms crossed, her designer handbag perched on her lap like a shield. 3 other relatives nodded in agreement, their faces a mixture of impatience and barely concealed disgust. But here's something you should know about karma. It doesn't always arrive with thunder and lightning. Sometimes it arrives quietly, in a sealed envelope, with a lawyer's signature at the bottom. Sometimes karma lets you hold all the cards while everyone else shows their hand first. And sometimes, the best revenge is simply watching people reveal exactly who they are when they think you have nothing left to lose. This is the story of Kara Lawson, and how she went from the dismissed, adopted daughter standing in that lawyer's office to the woman who would teach an entire family the true cost of their cruelty. But before we get into all of that, let me ask you something. How are you doing today? Where are you watching from? Is it sunny where you are, or is it one of those gray days that makes you want to stay inside and hear a story about justice? Because that's exactly what this is. A story about justice. The quiet kind. The devastating kind. Kara was 27 years old when her adoptive mother died. Elizabeth Lawson had been the only person in the entire family who treated Kara like she mattered. The only one who never made her feel like a charity case or a diversity checkbox. The only one who looked at Kara and saw a daughter, not an obligation. The funeral had been 3 days ago. Kara had stood alone at the gravesite while distant relatives huddled together under expensive umbrellas, whispering about estate divisions and property assessments. Nobody offered her a ride back. Nobody invited her to the reception. She had taken an Uber home to her small rental, still wearing the simple black dress Elizabeth had bought her for job interviews. Now she sat in Attorney Morris Green's office, surrounded by people who had ignored her for 20 years, but suddenly had opinions about funeral expenses. Elizabeth spoiled you, Patricia continued, examining her manicured nails. She paid for your college, gave you a place to live, treated you like you were actually her child. The least you could do is cover your own costs for her funeral. Kara looked at the woman who had never once invited her to family Christmas dinners. The woman who introduced Kara to friends as Elizabeth's project rather than her niece. The woman who was now sitting in a lawyer's office demanding money from someone she had spent 2 decades treating like an outsider. I didn't ask anyone to pay for anything, Kara said quietly. Her voice was steady despite the rage building in her chest. I just came because Mr. Green asked me to be here for the will reading. Patricia's son, Derek, laughed. He was 32, worked in his father's real estate firm, and had once told Kara at a family gathering that adopted children should be grateful for scraps. The will reading? Sweetie, I think you misunderstood. The will reading is for family. Actual family. You might get some personal items. Maybe some jewelry or books. Elizabeth was sentimental like that. Mr. Green cleared his throat. He was in his 60s, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, and he had been Elizabeth's attorney for 30 years. Kara watched him carefully arrange papers on his desk, his face unreadable. Actually, Mr. Green said slowly, Miss Lawson is exactly where she needs to be. Patricia waved a dismissive hand. Fine, fine. Let's just get this over with. Richard and I have dinner reservations at 7. Kara sat still, her hands folded in her lap. She wore jeans and a sweater because she had come straight from her shift at the bookstore where she worked part-time. She had moved out of Elizabeth's estate house within a week of the funeral, not wanting to stay where she wasn't wanted. Her new apartment was a studio in a neighborhood where car alarms went off at night and the elevator only worked half the time. But it was hers, and nobody there looked at her like she didn't belong. Mr. Green opened the folder in front of him. Elizabeth Lawson's estate is valued at approximately $350 million. The room went silent. Kara could hear the clock ticking on the wall. The estate includes her primary residence, valued at $12 million. Her investment portfolio, currently valued at $280 million. Her art collection, valued at $35 million. Her remaining liquid assets, approximately $23 million. And various other holdings and properties. Patricia leaned forward, her eyes gleaming. Derek pulled out his phone, probably opening a calculator app. Elizabeth's cousin, Margaret, actually licked her lips. Now, Mr. Green continued. Elizabeth was very specific about her wishes. Kara felt her heart hammering. Elizabeth had told her not to worry, that she would be taken care of, but Kara had assumed that meant a small trust fund. Maybe enough to finish her master's degree. Maybe a little cushion for emergencies. The estate in its entirety, Mr. Green said, looking directly at Kara, is left to Kara Lawson, her sole heir. With immediate effect. The silence that followed was deafening. Then Patricia stood up so fast her chair scraped against the floor. That's impossible. Elizabeth would never. I have the will right here, Mr. Green said calmly. Signed, witnessed, and filed. There are also video recordings of Elizabeth confirming her wishes, made specifically to prevent any contests to the will. She was very thorough. Derek's face had gone red. This is ridiculous. Kara is adopted. She's not real family. Elizabeth clearly wasn't in her right mind when she. Elizabeth was evaluated by 3 separate physicians, Mr. Green interrupted. All confirmed her complete mental competence. The will is ironclad. Kara couldn't breathe. $350 million. The number was so large it didn't feel real. It felt like a joke, or a mistake, or a dream she would wake up from any second. Margaret stood up, her voice shaking with rage. You little parasite. You manipulated her. You isolated her from her real family. You probably poisoned her against us. That's enough, Mr. Green said sharply. Miss Lawson, you don't have to stay for this. We can schedule a private meeting to go over the details of your inheritance. Your inheritance. The words echoed in Kara's head. But something was happening inside her. Something cold and clear. She looked at Patricia's furious face. At Derek's entitled sneer. At Margaret's undisguised hatred. These were people who had made her childhood lonely. Who had excluded her from family photos. Who had made sure she knew, always, that she was different. Less than. Not enough. And now they were angry because the woman they had barely visited in her final years had left everything to the daughter who had been there. The daughter who had read to her every evening. The daughter who had held her hand through chemotherapy. The daughter who had mattered. Kara stood up slowly. She looked at Mr. Green and made a decision that would change everything. Thank you, Mr. Green, she said quietly. But I'd like to keep this private for now. Completely private. Can we do that? Mr. Green's eyes flickered with understanding. Absolutely. Attorney-client privilege. Nothing discussed in this room goes beyond these walls without your explicit permission. Patricia's laugh was bitter. What does it matter? Everyone will know soon enough that you stole our family's money. But Kara was already seeing it. A plan forming in her mind like puzzle pieces clicking together. What if she didn't tell anyone? What if she just disappeared into her normal life and watched what happened? Who would be kind to the poor adopted girl with nothing? Who would show their true colors when they thought she was struggling? Actually, Kara said, meeting Patricia's eyes, I'd appreciate it if you didn't tell anyone about this. I need time to process. To grieve. Elizabeth just died, and all of you are already fighting over money. I need space. She could see the calculation in Patricia's expression. The woman probably thought Kara would be easy to manipulate. That given time and pressure, she could convince the naive adopted daughter to share the wealth with the real family. "Of course," Patricia said, her voice suddenly syrupy. "Take all the time you need, dear. We're here for you. Family takes care of family, after all." The hypocrisy was stunning. Kara just nodded and picked up her bag. As she walked out of that office, she carried a secret that weighed $350 million. And she was going to use it to see exactly who these people really were. The revenge wouldn't be loud. It wouldn't be dramatic. It would be perfect. If you're enjoying the story so far, please hit that like button and subscribe. Trust me, you're going to want to see how this plays out. Drop a comment and let me know what you think Kara should do with her secret. But let me start from the beginning, because you need to understand exactly how Kara ended up here. Kara had been 4 years old when Elizabeth adopted her. She didn't remember much about the foster homes before that, just fragments of memory. Cold floors, loud voices, the constant feeling of being temporary. Elizabeth had been 52 then, a widow whose own daughter had died in a car accident 5 years earlier. She had never remarried, never stopped grieving. But something about Kara had made her want to try again, want to love again. The family had been horrified. Kara grew up hearing the whispers. Patricia telling Elizabeth she was too old to raise a child. Derek's father, Richard, suggesting that grief had clouded Elizabeth's judgment. Margaret insisting that adopting a black child into their white family would create problems, using language that made Kara's stomach hurt even as a child. But Elizabeth had been firm. Kara was her daughter. End of discussion. Except the family never really ended the discussion. They just had it behind Elizabeth's back. They had it in looks and size and seating arrangements at family events. They had it every time they forgot to include Kara in the family photo, then acted like it was an honest mistake. Elizabeth had been wealthy beyond measure, old money from her own family combined with smart investments. She had given Kara every opportunity. Private schools, travel, education, love. But she couldn't give Kara acceptance from the family. That was something Kara had learned to stop expecting around age 12. Now, at 27, Kara had learned to build her own life. She had a degree in library science. She worked at an independent bookstore called Chapter and Verse. She had friends who didn't care about trust funds or last names. She had built something real. And now she had $350 million that nobody knew about. Kara took the bus home from the lawyer's office, sitting by the window and watching the city pass by. Her phone buzzed. A text from Patricia. "Thinking of you during this difficult time. Let's have lunch this week. Family needs to stick together." Kara stared at the message. Patricia had never once invited her to lunch. Not in 23 years. Another text, this time from Derek. "Hey, cuz. Sorry for your loss. Wanna grab coffee?" Then Margaret. "Dear Kara, I know we haven't always been close, but I'd love to help you through this transition. You must be so lost without Elizabeth." The messages kept coming. Suddenly everyone cared. Suddenly everyone wanted to help. Because they thought she had inherited millions and would be easy to manipulate. Kara turned off her phone and looked out at the city lights beginning to glow in the dusk. She thought about Elizabeth, about their last conversation in the hospital. "They're going to be horrible to you," Elizabeth had whispered, her voice weak but clear. "When I'm gone, they're going to circle like vultures. But Kara, baby, I've made sure you'll be okay. More than okay. I've made sure you'll never have to depend on anyone who doesn't truly love you. I just want you to stay," Kara had said, tears streaming down her face. "I know. But when I can't stay, I want you to promise me something. Don't let them make you small. Don't let them convince you that you're less than them. You're worth more than all of them combined, and soon you'll have the means to prove it." Kara hadn't understood then. Now she did. The bus stopped at her corner. She got off and walked the 3 blocks to her building. The apartment was tiny, just 500 square feet, but the rent was $800 a month, and she could afford it on her bookstore salary. Her neighbors were kind. The woman next door, Mrs. Chin, always saved her packages. The college student across the hall borrowed sugar and returned it with cookies. Nobody here knew who her adoptive mother had been. Nobody knew about the money. Nobody treated her any differently. And that's when Kara decided she would keep the secret. She would live her normal life. She would work at the bookstore and take the bus and eat cheap takeout. And she would watch carefully to see who valued her for herself. Not for her last name. Not for her connections. Not for what she could give them. Just for Kara. The people who passed that test would be the ones who mattered when the truth finally came out. And the people who failed? They would learn a lesson about judging people they considered beneath them. Kara unlocked her apartment door and stepped inside. On her small kitchen counter sat a card from the funeral. Inside, Elizabeth's handwriting, shaky but determined. My dearest Kara, you are my greatest joy. Make them see what I always saw. Make them understand what they lost by never knowing you. All my love, Mom. Kara set the card down and made herself a cup of tea. Then she sat by the window and began to plan. The game had begun. And nobody even knew they were playing. The first week after the will reading, Kara kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. She went to work at chapter and verse, shelving books and helping customers find their next read. She came home to her small apartment. She lived her life exactly as she had before, except now she carried a secret that made her hands shake every time she thought about it too hard. $350 million. The number still didn't feel real. Mr. Green had called her twice to schedule meetings about managing the estate. Kara had put him off, asking for time. He had been understanding, but firm about one thing. She needed to make decisions soon about the properties, the investments, the staff at Elizabeth's house who were still being paid from estate accounts. Take a month, he had told her. Grieve. Process. But after that, we need to discuss your plans. Kara had agreed. 1 month of normal life. 1 month to see who people really were. The family had different ideas. Patricia showed up at the bookstore on Tuesday, dressed in clothes that cost more than Kara's monthly rent. She walked through the aisles like she was touring a museum of poverty, her nose slightly wrinkled. There you are, Patricia said, her voice dripping with concern that didn't reach her eyes. I've been so worried. You haven't answered my calls. Kara was sitting behind the counter, processing a stack of new arrivals. Her coworker, Jamie, was watching from the history section with barely concealed curiosity. Jamie was 23, covered in tattoos, and had been the first person to befriend Kara when she started working there 6 months ago. I've been working, Kara said simply. I need the money. Patricia's expression shifted to something that might have been pity if Kara didn't know better. Sweetheart, you don't need to work. I'm sure Elizabeth left you something. Enough to take some time off, at least. You're grieving. The funeral expenses took most of what I had saved, Kara lied smoothly. And I don't know what Elizabeth left me yet. Mr. Green said the estate is complicated. This was the test. Kara watched Patricia's face carefully. Well, Patricia said, her voice taking on edge, I'm sure it won't be much. Elizabeth spent so much on your education and upbringing. But family takes care of family. If you need help with rent or anything, you just let me know. The offer sounded generous. It wasn't. Kara could hear the calculation behind it. Patricia was fishing for information about the will while simultaneously reminding Kara of her place. Poor. Dependent. Grateful. That's kind of you, Kara said neutrally. Of course, we'd need to discuss terms, Patricia continued. You understand, Richard and I have our own expenses. But we could work something out. Maybe you could help out around the house, or do some administrative work for Richard's company. Fair exchange. There it was. Patricia was already positioning Kara as household help, as someone who would need to earn any assistance, as someone beneath her. Jamie appeared at the counter, her expression friendly, but her eyes sharp. Kara, can you help me with the inventory in the back? It was an escape route. Kara took it. I need to get back to work, Kara told Patricia. But thank you for stopping by. Patricia's smile tightened. We should have lunch. Friday? There's a lovely little cafe near my house. You can take the bus, it's only 2 transfers. The casual cruelty of it landed perfectly. Patricia knew Kara took the bus everywhere. She knew Kara couldn't afford a car. She was making sure Kara knew that she knew. I'll check my schedule, Kara said. When Patricia finally left, Jamie let out a low whistle. That woman is a piece of work. Who is she? My adoptive aunt, Kara said quietly. She treats you like a servant. She always has. Jamie was quiet for a moment, then squeezed Kara's shoulder. You deserve better than that. The simple kindness made Kara's throat tight. Jamie didn't know about the money. Jamie had no reason to be nice except that she was genuinely a good person. This was exactly the kind of thing Kara needed to see. Who was kind when it didn't benefit them? Who was cruel when they thought they could get away with it? That night, Derek called. Kara almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Kara, hey. Derek's voice was artificially warm. Listen, I feel terrible about how things went at the lawyer's office. Mom can be intense, you know how she is. I know exactly how she is, Kara said. Right, well, I wanted to reach out personally. See how you're doing. Losing Elizabeth must be really hard, and I know you two were close. Derek had made fun of Kara's closeness with Elizabeth for years. He had called her a mommy's girl at family gatherings. He had implied that Kara was manipulative for spending so much time with Elizabeth. Now he wanted to pretend he understood. I'm managing, Kara said. Good, good. Hey, so I wanted to talk to you about something. Elizabeth's house is just sitting there, right? Empty? Kara's grip on the phone tightened. Yes. Well, that's not safe. Empty houses get broken into. And the maintenance costs must be crazy. I was thinking, what if I moved in temporarily? Just to keep an eye on the place until the estate is settled. I wouldn't charge you anything for the security service. Family helps family. The audacity was breathtaking. Derek wanted to move into a $12 million mansion and call it doing Kara a favor. The estate has a security company, Kara said. But I'll think about it. Don't think too long, Derek said, his voice hardening slightly. Like I said, empty houses are targets. It would be a shame if anything happened to Elizabeth's things before you get your inheritance sorted out. It took Kara a moment to understand what he was implying. Then it hit her. Derek was suggesting that the house might be vandalized or robbed if she didn't let him move in. He was essentially threatening her. I'll keep that in mind, Kara said coldly and hung up. She sat in her small apartment, looking at the phone, and felt something dark and angry building in her chest. These people thought she was powerless. They thought they could manipulate her, threaten her, use her. They had no idea who they were dealing with. The next day, Margaret called. Then Elizabeth's cousin Thomas. Then Patricia's daughter, Amanda, who Kara had met exactly twice in her entire life. They all had the same energy. Fake concern. Thinly veiled threats. Suggestions about how Kara should handle the estate that all seemed to benefit them. Amanda wanted to help by selling Elizabeth's art collection and splitting the proceeds. Thomas suggested that Kara might want to gift some of Elizabeth's properties to family members to avoid inheritance taxes. Margaret offered to introduce Kara to her financial advisor, who would make sure you don't get taken advantage of. Every single one of them was circling. Every single one of them saw an opportunity. None of them asked how Kara was feeling. None of them shared memories of Elizabeth. None of them treated Kara like a human being who was grieving. On Thursday, Kara came home from work to find Patricia waiting in the lobby of her apartment building. She was sitting on the worn couch near the mailboxes, looking deeply uncomfortable. Kara, finally, Patricia stood up quickly. Your phone goes straight to voicemail. The battery dies sometimes, Kara lied. She had been sending Patricia's calls to voicemail on purpose. I need to talk to you. It's urgent. Can we go upstairs? Kara really didn't want Patricia in her apartment, but she also didn't want to have this conversation in the lobby where her neighbors might hear. Fine. They rode the elevator in silence. Patricia's expression grew more pinched with each floor. By the time they reached Kara's studio, she looked like she was fighting nausea. This is where you live? Patricia said, looking around the small space. The kitchen was 3 feet from the bed. The bathroom door didn't close all the way. The view was of a brick wall. Yes. Kara, this is unacceptable. You're a Lawson. Elizabeth would be horrified to see you living like this. The rage that flashed through Kara was white-hot. Elizabeth knew I moved. She supported my decision to be independent. Independent is one thing. This is poverty. Patricia sat gingerly on the edge of Kara's small couch. Which is actually why I'm here. I've spoken with the family, and we've made a decision. We're going to help you. Help me how? Patricia pulled out a folder from her designer bag. We've consulted with our own attorney about Elizabeth's will. The good news is that even though she left everything to you, there are provisions for the family to contest based on undue influence. Kara went very still. Undue influence. You were living with her. Caring for her. You had access to her when she was sick and vulnerable. A judge would see that you may have manipulated her into changing her will. She didn't change her will, Kara said quietly. I've always been her heir. Since I was 18. Patricia's smile was sharp. That's your claim. But the family is prepared to fight this in court. The legal fees alone would bankrupt you. The case could take years. And in the meantime, the estate would be frozen. You wouldn't see a penny. This was the first real betrayal. Patricia wasn't pretending anymore. She was showing her hand. However, Patricia continued, we're willing to be reasonable. If you agree to split the estate fairly among the family, we'll drop any contest. You'd still get a share. Enough to be comfortable. Enough to get out of this terrible apartment and build a real life. Split it how? Kara asked, even though she already knew this was going nowhere. The estate divided among Elizabeth's blood relatives, with a portion for you as acknowledgement of your years of service to her. We're thinking 5 million would be more than generous. 5 million out of 350 million. Less than 2%. And if I say no? Kara asked. Patricia's expression turned cold. Then we file the contest on Monday. We freeze the estate. We depose everyone who ever saw you with Elizabeth. We make your life a legal nightmare. And when we're done, we'll prove that you manipulated a sick old woman, and you'll get nothing. You might even face criminal charges. Kara looked at this woman who had made her childhood lonely, who had excluded her from family events, who had made sure Kara always knew she wasn't really family. And now she wanted to steal Elizabeth's final gift. Get out of my apartment, Kara said quietly. Patricia stood up, smoothing her skirt. You have until Sunday to think about it. After that, we file. And Kara? You might want to talk to a lawyer. Though I doubt you can afford one who could actually fight us. She left, and Kara stood alone in her studio apartment, shaking with rage. This was who they were. This was what they had always been. And they had just made a catastrophic mistake. They had threatened her. They had shown her exactly how far they would go. Now Kara knew exactly how far she could go in return. She picked up her phone and called Mr. Green. I need to know something, Kara said when he answered. Can they actually contest the will? Mr. Green was quiet for a moment. They can file a contest. Anyone can file. But they won't win. Elizabeth's will is airtight. I made sure of it. She anticipated this exact scenario. How long would a contest take? With their resources? They could drag it out for a year, maybe two. But Kara, you have resources now too. The estate can pay for your legal defense. You won't lose. But it would be public, Kara said slowly. If they contest, it goes to court. It becomes public record. Yes. And everyone would know about the inheritance. Yes. Kara thought about her plan. About keeping the secret. About seeing who valued her for herself. A court case would ruin that. What if I give them just enough to make them go away? Kara asked. Not 5 million. But something. That's your choice, Mr. Green said carefully. But Kara, may I give you some advice? Please. People who threaten you once will threaten you again. If you give them money to avoid a fight, they'll learn that threatening you works. They'll be back for more within a year. Kara closed her eyes. He was right. What would Elizabeth want me to do? She asked quietly. Mr. Green's voice was warm. Elizabeth wanted you to be strong. She wanted you to know your worth. She wanted you to never let anyone make you feel small again. She told me that directly when we drafted the will. Then I'll be strong, Kara said. Let them file their contest. I'll fight. Are you sure? It won't be pleasant. I'm sure. But Mr. Green? I want to keep living my normal life as long as possible. Can we keep the details quiet until we have to go public? I'll do my best. But Kara, once they file, reporters might start digging. This is a large estate. It will be news. I understand. I just want a little more time. You've got it. When Kara hung up, she felt something settling in her chest. A kind of certainty. Patricia had drawn first blood. She had made this a war. And she had no idea that Kara had an army of lawyers and 350 million reasons to fight back. The game had just gotten serious. And Kara was going to win. Sunday came and went. Patricia's deadline passed without a word from Kara. On Monday morning, Kara woke up in her small studio apartment, got dressed in jeans and a sweater, and took the bus to chapter and verse like it was any other day. She shelved books. She helped a customer find a gift for their daughter. She ate lunch in the back room with Jamie, who was complaining about her roommate's boyfriend. It felt almost normal. Then her phone rang at 1:15. Mr. Green. They filed, he said without preamble. Contest of will based on undue influence, elder abuse, and mental incompetence. They're going for everything, Kara. They want the entire estate voided and redistributed according to intestacy laws. Kara's hand tightened on the phone. Which means what? Which means if they win, the estate goes to Elizabeth's blood relatives. You get nothing. Not 5 million. Not 1 million. Nothing. Because under intestacy law, adopted children aren't considered heirs if there are surviving blood relatives. The cruelty of it hit Kara like a physical blow. Patricia had offered her 5 million as a negotiation tactic, a test to see if Kara would break easily. But Patricia had never intended to share anything. She wanted Kara erased completely. They're claiming I abused Elizabeth? Kara asked quietly. Yes. They're alleging you isolated her from family, controlled her access to medical care and visitors, and manipulated her while she was vulnerable and dying. It's scorched earth, Kara. They're not just coming for the money. They're coming for your reputation, your character, everything. Jamie was watching from across the break room, her expression concerned. Kara turned away, pressing the phone tighter to her ear. What do we do? Kara asked. We fight. I'm filing our response this week. We have the medical records proving Elizabeth's competence. We have the video testimony. We have witness statements from the household staff. We have everything we need to win. But it's going to be public. Yes. And Kara, there's something else. Patricia's holding a press conference tomorrow at noon on the courthouse steps. She's going to make a statement about the filing. Kara felt sick. A press conference meant reporters. It meant cameras. It meant Patricia telling her version of the story to the world before Kara could even process what was happening. She's going to destroy me publicly before we even get to court, Kara said. Mr. Green was quiet for a moment. She's going to try. But Kara, the truth is on our side. Elizabeth loved you. She chose you. No press conference can change that. Can't we stop it? Can't we do something? It's her right to speak to the press. But it's also your right. You could be there. You could respond. The thought of facing Patricia in front of cameras made Kara's stomach turn. But the thought of letting Patricia control the narrative, of sitting silent while lies were told about her relationship with Elizabeth, was worse. I'll be there, Kara said. When she hung up, Jamie was standing next to her. What's going on? My aunt is suing me. She's trying to take everything Elizabeth left me. Jamie's eyes widened. Can she do that? She can try. That's insane. I'm so sorry, Kara. Kara went back to work because she didn't know what else to do. She moved through the rest of her shift on autopilot, smiling at customers, processing sales, restocking shelves. But inside, she was screaming. That night, alone in her apartment, Kara let herself fall apart. She cried until her head ached and her eyes were swollen. She cried for Elizabeth, who had protected her in life, but couldn't protect her in death. She cried for herself, for the loneliness of fighting this battle alone. She cried because Patricia's cruelty was so complete, so calculated, so devastating. Elizabeth had left her $350 million, and Kara couldn't touch any of it. She was living in a studio apartment, working retail, eating ramen for dinner, while sitting on a fortune that might be stolen from her by people who had never loved her. The irony was bitter. Her phone buzzed with text messages. Patricia, Derek, Margaret, Thomas, Amanda. All of them reaching out with fake concern now that the lawsuit was filed. Patricia's message was particularly galling. I'm sorry it came to this, Kara. But family must protect family legacy. Elizabeth would understand. This isn't personal. It was completely personal. It had always been personal. Kara blocked all their numbers and threw her phone across the room. The next morning, she called in sick to work for the first time ever. Leonard was understanding. Take care of yourself. The books will be here when you get back. Kara dressed carefully for the press conference. She wore the black dress from Elizabeth's funeral and the pearl earrings Elizabeth had given her for her college graduation. She pulled her hair back and looked at herself in the mirror. She looked tired, scared, young, but she also looked determined. Mr. Green picked her up at 11. They drove to the courthouse in silence. When they arrived, Kara saw the crowd. Reporters with cameras. Bloggers with phones. Curious onlookers who had seen the news and wanted to watch the drama unfold. And there, at the center of it all, stood Patricia. She was dressed in elegant black, her hair perfectly styled, her makeup subtle and tasteful. She looked like a grieving family member. She looked sympathetic. She looked like the victim. Derek stood beside her in a dark suit, his expression solemn. Margaret was there, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. Thomas, Amanda, and several other relatives Kara barely knew formed a line behind them, a united wall of family solidarity. They had choreographed this perfectly. Kara and Mr. Green stood at the edge of the plaza, watching. You don't have to do this, Mr. Green said quietly. We can leave right now. We can respond through official channels. No, Kara said. I need to hear what she's going to say. I need to face this. Patricia stepped up to the podium. The cameras focused on her. Reporters quieted, pens ready. Thank you all for coming, Patricia began, her voice heavy with emotion. This is a difficult day for our family. A day we hoped would never come. She paused, letting the weight of her words settle. My sister, Elizabeth Lawson, was an extraordinary woman. Generous, kind, brilliant. She dedicated her life to helping others, especially those less fortunate. 23 years ago, she made the compassionate decision to adopt a child from foster care. That child was Kara Lawson. Patricia gestured vaguely in Kara's direction, though she didn't make eye contact. Elizabeth gave Kara everything. A home, an education, opportunities most people only dream of. She loved Kara deeply, perhaps too deeply, because somewhere along the way, that relationship became unhealthy. Kara began to isolate Elizabeth from her family. She controlled who could visit. She monitored Elizabeth's phone calls. She convinced Elizabeth that we, her blood relatives, didn't care about her. Kara's hands clenched into fists. Every word was a lie. We tried to maintain contact, Patricia continued, her voice breaking convincingly. We called. We visited when we were allowed. But Kara always had a reason why it wasn't a good time. Elizabeth was tired. Elizabeth was resting. Elizabeth didn't want to be disturbed. Derek nodded gravely, playing his part perfectly. And then Elizabeth got sick. Cancer. We wanted to be there for her. We wanted to help. But Kara controlled everything. She decided who could visit and when. She made medical decisions without consulting the family. She cut us out of the final months of our sister's life. Margaret let out a small sob. It would have been convincing if Kara hadn't known the truth. When Elizabeth died, Patricia said, her voice dropping to almost a whisper, we were heartbroken. We had lost our sister, our aunt, our family matriarch. But then we learned something that shocked us to our core. Elizabeth's will left her entire estate, valued at $350 million to Kara. Not a penny to anyone else. Nothing to the family that had loved Elizabeth for 60 years. Everything to the girl she had known for 23. A reporter shouted a question. Are you saying the will was changed? I'm saying that when someone isolates an elderly person, controls their relationships, and then benefits financially from their death, we have to ask serious questions about undue influence and elder abuse. The words hung in the air. Elder abuse. Patricia had just publicly accused Kara of abusing Elizabeth. Kara felt like she couldn't breathe. We loved Elizabeth, Patricia continued, looking directly into the cameras. We just want justice for her. We want her true wishes honored, not the wishes of someone who manipulated her during her most vulnerable moments. That's why we filed a contest of the will. Not for the money, but for Elizabeth's memory. For her legacy. For the truth. Another reporter called out, what do you want to happen to the estate? We want it distributed fairly among Elizabeth's family. The people who loved her their entire lives, not just the last 20 years. That's what Elizabeth would have truly wanted if she hadn't been under Kara's influence. Derek stepped forward, adding his voice. Kara was given every advantage. Elizabeth paid for her education, her living expenses, everything. The least Kara could do is honor our family's legacy by sharing the estate with Elizabeth's blood relatives. But instead, she's choosing greed over gratitude. That was too much. Kara started walking toward the podium before Mr. Green could stop her. Reporters noticed her immediately. Cameras swung in her direction. Voices called out her name. That's her. That's Kara Lawson. Kara walked straight up to the podium. Patricia's face went pale. Derek took a step back. For a moment, Kara just stood there, looking at the woman who had made her childhood lonely, who had excluded her from family photos and holiday dinners, who had made sure Kara always knew she was different, less than, not enough. And now this woman was trying to steal the final gift Elizabeth had given her. You want to talk about isolation? Kara said, her voice clear and steady despite the rage burning in her chest. Let's talk about how many times you visited Elizabeth during her 18 months of chemotherapy. I counted. 0. Let's talk about who held her hand during radiation treatments. Me. Let's talk about who read to her every night when the pain was so bad she couldn't sleep. Me. Let's talk about who was there when she took her last breath. Me. Where were you, Patricia? Patricia's mouth opened, but no sound came out. You claim I controlled her visitors, Kara continued. The door was always open. Elizabeth asked about you constantly. She made excuses for why you never came. She said you were busy, that you had your own life, that she understood. But I saw how much it hurt her every time you canceled plans or forgot to call. Derek tried to interrupt. That's not. You don't get to speak, Kara cut him off, her voice sharp. You told me at a family dinner 3 years ago that adopted children should be grateful for scraps. You said it to my face. You want to talk about what Elizabeth would want? She wanted her daughter to have her estate. Not her niece who never visited. Not her nephew who mocked me at every family gathering. Her daughter. Me. The courts will prove that. Kara turned to face the cameras directly. I loved Elizabeth with everything I had. She was my mother in every way that mattered. And these people, who barely knew her in the last decade of her life, are trying to steal her final act of love because they think adoption doesn't count as real family. The truth will come out in court. See you there. She walked away, Mr. Green hurrying to catch up with her. Behind her, reporters shouted questions. Patricia tried to respond, but her voice was drowned out by the chaos. Kara didn't look back. She had just declared war. And there was no going back now. The video of Kara confronting Patricia went viral within 3 hours. Someone had filmed the entire exchange on their phone and posted it with the caption, "Adopted daughter destroys greedy aunt trying to steal her inheritance." By evening, it had 2 million views. By the next morning, it was trending on every social media platform. The comments section was a war zone. Half the people supported Kara. She's right. The aunt never visited but wants the money? Disgusting. Adoption is real family. Blood doesn't mean anything if you're not there. I hope she takes them for everything. The other half tore Kara apart. She manipulated a dying woman and now she's playing victim. Gold digger got caught and is trying to flip the script. $350 million to someone who knew her for 20 years versus family who knew her for 60? Something's not right. Kara made the mistake of reading the comments. Each hateful message felt like a knife. Jamie found her in the break room at chapter and verse, scrolling through her phone with tears streaming down her face. Stop reading that garbage, Jamie said, taking the phone from her hands. Anonymous internet strangers don't know you or your family. They're just vultures feeding on drama. But what if they're right? Kara whispered. What if I was selfish? What if Elizabeth only left me everything because I was there and they weren't, not because she actually wanted me to have it? Did Elizabeth tell you she loved you? Every day. Did she call you her daughter? Yes. Then stop letting these people make you doubt that. Jamie squeezed her hand. You know the truth. That's what matters. But the truth felt slippery when the whole world was telling a different story. The bookstore started feeling the impact by midweek. Customers came in just to stare at Kara, whispering to each other and taking photos when they thought she wasn't looking. Someone left a 1-star review online. Uncomfortable atmosphere. Employee involved in elder abuse lawsuit. Won't be returning. Leonard called Kara into his office on Thursday afternoon. She prepared herself to be fired. Instead, he said, I'm installing a security camera at the entrance. And I'm putting up a sign that says no photography of staff. Anyone who harasses you gets banned. This is still your workplace, and you're still my employee. Kara's throat tightened with gratitude. Thank you. You're a good person, Kara. I've known that since the day you started. Whatever your family says about you, I know better. Another person choosing kindness. Kara held on to that. But the pressure kept building from every direction. The depositions started the following week. Patricia's lead attorney, Robert Jameson, was in his 50s, sharp-eyed and aggressive. He made Kara sit in a conference room for 6 hours while he asked invasive questions about every aspect of her relationship with Elizabeth. Did Elizabeth give you money during her lifetime? She gave me an allowance during college. And she paid my tuition. How much total would you estimate? I don't know. Maybe $200,000 over 4 years. Did you ask for this money? No. She offered it. Did you ever suggest to Elizabeth that her family didn't care about her? No. Never. Did you ever prevent family members from visiting? No. They just didn't visit. But you were the one answering the door, correct? You were the one managing her schedule. I lived there. Of course I answered the door. But I never turned anyone away. Who made Elizabeth's medical appointments? I did toward the end when she was too weak. Did you consult with the family about medical decisions? I tried. Patricia never returned my calls. That's not what Mrs. Patricia Lawson says. She claims you deliberately kept her in the dark. Then she's lying. Jameson smiled, like he had gotten exactly the response he wanted. You're calling Mrs. Lawson a liar under oath? Kara met his eyes. I'm saying her version of events is not accurate. The deposition felt like an attack disguised as legal procedure. Every question was designed to make Kara look manipulative, controlling, predatory. Mr. Green objected when he could, but there was only so much he could do. When it was finally over, Kara felt wrung out and hollow. You did well, Mr. Green told her. You stayed calm. You told the truth. That's all we need. But Kara didn't feel like she had done well. She felt like she had been put through a shredder. The family's campaign against her intensified. Patricia went on a morning talk show, crying about how heartbroken she was to lose her sister and then be cut out of the will. Derek gave an interview to a popular podcast, painting himself as the protective cousin trying to save the family legacy from a con artist. Margaret wrote an op-ed for a major newspaper titled, When Adoption Becomes Manipulation, One Family Story. It was full of lies and half-truths, suggestions that Kara had targeted Elizabeth specifically because she was wealthy and vulnerable. Kara wanted to respond, to defend herself, but Mr. Green advised against it. Don't try to win in the court of public opinion. We'll win where it matters, in actual court. But living under constant public attack was destroying Kara piece by piece. Her neighbors started treating her differently. Mrs. Chin, who used to save her packages, now avoided eye contact in the hallway. The college student across the hall moved out suddenly. The family on the 3rd floor pulled their children away when they saw Kara coming. Someone spray-painted thief on the building's exterior wall near Kara's window. The landlord made her pay for the cleaning, citing the clause in her lease about not causing disturbances. I didn't paint it, Kara protested. But it's there because of you, the landlord said. That's disturbance enough. Kara paid the $400 cleaning fee from her dwindling savings and felt the walls closing in. She still had $350 million in her name. But she couldn't access it without revealing her secret plan, without giving up on seeing who would value her for herself. And now she was starting to wonder if that plan had been naive. Childish. Stupid. Maybe she should have just announced the inheritance from the beginning. Maybe she should have hired security and lawyers and lived in Elizabeth's mansion behind gates that kept the world out. Instead, she was living in a studio apartment, taking the bus to work, eating ramen for dinner, and watching her reputation get destroyed on social media. The depositions continued. They deposed Maria, Elizabeth's housekeeper, who cried on the stand while describing how much Elizabeth loved Kara and how rarely Patricia visited. They deposed Elizabeth's doctors, who confirmed she was mentally sharp until the end. They deposed Elizabeth's attorney, Mr. Green himself, who testified that Elizabeth had been clear, certain, and adamant about leaving everything to Kara. But Patricia's lawyers found their own witnesses. A distant cousin who claimed Elizabeth had once expressed concern about Kara's spending. A former neighbor who said she had seen Kara argue with Elizabeth about money. A nurse who worked one shift during Elizabeth's hospice care who testified that Kara seemed overly controlling about visitors. All of it felt coordinated, rehearsed. Like Patricia had been preparing for this fight long before Elizabeth died. 3 weeks into the legal battle, Derek showed up at the bookstore. Kara was restocking the mystery section when she saw him browsing the aisles. Her whole body went rigid. "We don't want any trouble," Leonard said, appearing beside her. "No trouble," Derek said, raising his hands in mock surrender. "I just want to talk to my cousin. Family to family." "We're not family," Kara said coldly. "Elizabeth thought we were. She used to talk about how much she wanted us all to get along." Derek picked up a book, pretending to examine it. "You know, this lawsuit is going to get ugly. More ugly than it already is. People are going to dig into your past. Your time in foster care. The families who gave you back. The reasons why." Kara's blood went cold. "I was 4 years old." "I know. But people love a narrative. Troubled child grows up to manipulate elderly adoptive mother. It plays well." "You're threatening me." Derek set the book down carefully. "I'm offering you one last chance to settle. Take 10 million and walk away." Mom's feeling generous today. 10 million. Down from 100 million last week. Your desperation is showing. Derek's friendly mask slipped. "You think you're so smart. You think you're going to win this. But Kara, we have resources you can't imagine. We can drag this case out for years. We can make your life a living hell. Is it really worth it?" "Yes," Kara said. "Because Elizabeth chose me. And I'm going to honor that choice." Elizabeth was sick and confused. Elizabeth was brilliant and clear-minded, and you know it. Derek leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "You're going to lose everything. The money, your reputation, your pathetic little life. And when you do, don't say I didn't warn you." Leonard stepped between them. "Get out of my store." Derek smiled, straightened his jacket, and walked out without another word. Kara's hands were shaking. Jamie appeared with a glass of water. "What did he say to you?" Jamie asked. "He threatened to expose my foster care records. To make it look like I was a troubled kid who grew up to be a con artist." "Can he do that?" "I don't know." That night, Kara called Mr. Green in a panic. "Can they access my foster care records? Can they use my childhood against me?" Mr. Green was quiet for a moment. "Those records are sealed." "But Kara, I need to ask. Is there anything in your past that could be damaging if it came out?" "I was in 6 foster homes before Elizabeth adopted me. Some of them gave me back because I was too quiet, too withdrawn, too traumatized. I was 4 years old, and I had already learned that love was conditional." "Is that what you mean by damaging?" "I mean legally damaging. Criminal history, mental health commitments, anything like that." "No, nothing. I was a child." "Then they have nothing. They're just trying to scare you." But Kara was scared. She was terrified. Because Patricia's team was proving they would do anything to win. They would lie, threaten, manipulate, and destroy. They would tear apart a grieving daughter's life and call it justice. And Kara was fighting them alone. 2 days later, someone leaked Kara's address to a doxing website. By evening, photographers were camped outside her building. Someone threw a rock through her window with a note attached. "Give the money back." The landlord gave her 30 days' notice to vacate. The other tenants are complaining. "This is too much disruption. I'm sorry, but you need to go." Kara stood in her tiny apartment, looking at the broken window covered with cardboard and felt something breaking inside her too. She had thought keeping the inheritance secret would protect her. She had thought it would show her who people really were. But all it had shown her was that the world was cruel to people it perceived as weak. And Kara, living in a studio apartment and working retail while being accused of stealing millions, looked very weak indeed. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Hi Kara. My name is Marcus Webb. I'm a social worker who specializes in foster care and adoption cases. I saw your story on the news, and I wanted to reach out. I think what your family is doing to you is disgusting. If you ever want to talk to someone who understands what it's like to be adopted and feel like an outsider, I'm here. No judgment. Just support. The message included a phone number and a photo. Marcus was a black man, probably early 30s, with kind eyes and a warm smile. His profile said he worked for the Department of Child Services. Kara stared at the message for a long time. It felt like kindness, like genuine human connection from someone who understood. But after everything Patricia's family had done, Kara didn't know if she could trust anyone anymore. She saved the number, but didn't respond. Not yet. She had to be sure. Because the next person who betrayed her might be the one who broke her completely. Kara didn't respond to Marcus's text for 3 days. But on the 4th day, when she came home from another brutal deposition to her apartment with the cardboard-covered window, she felt so desperately alone that she finally texted back. Thanks for reaching out. I could use someone who understands. Marcus responded within minutes. Want to grab coffee? No pressure. Just 2 people who know what the system is like. They met at a small cafe in a neighborhood where nobody recognized Kara. Marcus was exactly like his photo, warm, genuine, easy to talk to. He told her about aging out of foster care at 18, putting himself through college while working 3 jobs, becoming a social worker because he wanted to help kids like he had been. The adoption thing never goes away, Marcus said, stirring his coffee. You always feel like you have to prove you belong. Like you're on trial for taking up space in someone else's family. Yes, Kara breathed. Exactly that. What your aunt is doing to you, questioning whether you deserved Elizabeth's love, whether adoption counts as real family, that's every adopted kid's worst nightmare made public. For the first time in weeks, Kara felt understood. Seen. They started texting daily. Marcus sent her funny memes about surviving family drama. Kara sent him book recommendations. He told her about the kids he worked with, their resilience and hope despite everything they had been through. She told him about Elizabeth, about the real relationship they had shared, not the twisted version Patricia was selling to the media. She sounds like she was an amazing mom, Marcus said during their 3rd coffee date. She was the only person who ever made me feel like I was enough exactly as I was, Kara said, her voice breaking. Marcus reached across the table and squeezed her hand. You are enough. What Patricia is doing says everything about her and nothing about you. Kara started to fall for him. How could she not? He was kind when the world was cruel. He understood when everyone else judged. He showed up when she was at her lowest. When she had to move out of her apartment, Marcus helped her pack boxes. When reporters ambushed her outside the bookstore, Marcus walked her home. When she cried about the lawsuit, Marcus held her and told her she was going to survive this. I know it doesn't feel like it now, he said one evening as they sat in her new, even smaller apartment, but you're stronger than all of them. You're going to win. How do you know? Because you're fighting for love. They're fighting for money. Love always wins in the end. Kara wanted to believe that. For weeks into knowing Marcus, Kara was at his apartment watching a movie on his laptop. Marcus had gone to the kitchen to make popcorn. His phone was on the coffee table, and it buzzed with a text. Kara wouldn't have looked. She respected privacy. She trusted him. But the name on the screen made her blood freeze. D. Lawson. Derek Lawson. Her hand moved without conscious thought. She picked up the phone. The preview of the text was visible on the lock screen. She's completely hooked. Thinks I actually care. This is going to work perfectly. Patricia was right, she's desperate for validation. Kara's vision blurred. She unlocked the phone. Marcus didn't have a passcode. He had told her he believed in trust and scrolled through the conversation. The messages went back 5 weeks. To before Marcus had first texted her. Derek, need you to get close to the target. Find out her legal strategy. See if she has any weaknesses we can exploit. Marcus, why me? Derek, you're her type. Black, social worker, adoption background. She'll trust you. Plus, we're paying you $50K if you get useful information. $100K if you can convince her to settle. Marcus, I don't know, man, this feels wrong. Derek, it's $50,000 for a few weeks of work. Pretend to like her. Get her to trust you. Report back. That's it. Kara kept scrolling, nausea rising in her throat. After their first coffee date, made contact. She's lonely and defensive. This won't be hard. After their third date, she's opening up about the case. Her lawyer thinks they'll win easily. She's more confident than she seems. After he helped her move, she's falling for me. Give me another week and I'll have everything. And then, from just 2 days ago, she told me her lawyer has video testimony from Elizabeth. Multiple recordings. They're planning to present them at trial. Thought you should know. Kara heard Marcus's footsteps coming back from the kitchen. She set the phone down carefully, exactly where it had been. He came in smiling, holding a bowl of popcorn. Sorry, I couldn't find the butter. I hope plain is. He stopped when he saw her face. Kara? Who are you? Her voice sounded strange to her own ears. Distant. Dead. What do you mean? Derek Lawson. He texted you. I saw it. Marcus's face went white. The bowl of popcorn slipped from his hands, scattering across the floor. Kara, I can explain. Explain what? That my cousin paid you to seduce me? That you've been spying on me for $50,000? That every single thing you've said to me has been a lie? It's not like that. It started that way, but what? Kara stood up, her whole body shaking. But you started to actually care? Is that what you're going to say? That your feelings became real? Yes. Marcus reached for her, and she jerked away. Yes, exactly that. Derek approached me 6 weeks ago. He knew I worked in foster care, knew I was adopted, knew I fit the profile of someone you might trust. He offered me money I desperately needed. Student loans, medical bills from when I had no insurance, my car barely runs, $50,000 would have changed my life. So you sold yourself. You sold me. I took the job. But Kara, the moment I met you, the moment we talked, you were so real. So genuine. Nothing like Derek described. He painted you as this manipulative gold digger, but you were just this woman who loved her mom and was being destroyed by her family's greed. And yet you kept reporting to him. You kept taking his money. You kept lying to me. Marcus ran his hands over his face. I know. I told myself I was just going through the motions, that I wasn't giving him anything important, but that's not true. I did give him information. I did betray you. And I've been trying to figure out how to tell you, how to make it right. You can't make this right. Kara's voice broke. You were the one person I trusted. The one person I thought saw me for who I actually am. But you were just another person trying to use me. That's not fair. My feelings for you are real. Your feelings don't matter when your actions are lies. Kara grabbed her bag, her vision blurred with tears. Everything you said about understanding adoption, about knowing what it's like to feel like an outsider, you used that. You weaponized the most painful parts of my identity to manipulate me. Kara, please. Don't go. Let me explain everything. There's nothing to explain. Derek paid you to get close to me. You did. You reported back on my legal strategy. You betrayed every confidence I shared with you. That's the whole story. She headed for the door. Marcus followed. I'll testify, he said desperately. I'll tell the court what Derek did. I'll give your lawyer all the text messages. I'll help you prove they're willing to commit fraud. Kara stopped with her hand on the doorknob. Why would you do that? Because it's the right thing to do. And because he stopped. Because you what? Because I love you. Kara laughed, a broken sound. You don't even know me. You know the version of me Derek told you to find. The desperate, lonely, easy to manipulate version. That's not love, Marcus. That's just you feeling guilty for getting caught. That's not true. I don't care if it's true or not. I don't care about you anymore. She walked out of his apartment and down the stairs. Marcus called after her, but she didn't stop. She made it to the bus stop before she started crying. Made it onto the bus before the sobs came. Made it to her apartment before she completely fell apart. She had been so stupid. So desperately stupid. She had thought Marcus was different. That he saw her for who she really was. That he cared about Kara the person, not Kara the inheritance. But he had been bought and paid for by the family that wanted to destroy her. Everyone had a price. Patricia had taught her that with the $5 million offer. Derek had proved it by hiring Marcus. Marcus had confirmed it by accepting the job. Everyone could be bought. Everyone would betray her eventually. Kara curled up on her mattress on the floor of her new apartment. She hadn't been able to afford a bed frame after paying for the move and the deposit, and felt more alone than she had since Elizabeth died. She had $350 million that she couldn't touch. She had a court case she was terrified of losing. She had a family that hated her. And now she had proof that even kindness could be bought, that even understanding could be faked, that even love could be a transaction. Her phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. I'm sorry. I know you won't believe me, but I am so deeply sorry. I'm going to your lawyer tomorrow. I'm giving him everything, all the texts, all the recordings of my conversations with Derek, everything. What I did was unforgivable, but I can at least try to make it help your case. You deserved so much better than what I gave you. Kara read the message 3 times. Then she blocked his number and threw her phone across the room. She didn't care if his testimony would help her case. She didn't care if he was sorry. She didn't care about anything except the crushing, devastating realization that she was truly alone in this fight. And she didn't know if she had the strength to keep fighting. Marcus did exactly what he promised. He went to Mr. Green's office the next morning with his phone, his laptop, and 5 weeks of text messages proving Derek had hired him to spy on Kara. Mr. Green called Kara immediately. This changes everything. This proves fraud, witness tampering, conspiracy. Patricia's case is going to collapse. I don't care, Kara said flatly. Kara, this is good news. This is what we need to win. Congratulations. Use whatever you want. I don't want to talk about Marcus. She hung up. The truth was, she didn't care about winning anymore. She didn't care about the money or the case or proving Patricia wrong. She just wanted the pain to stop. But the pain kept getting worse. The story about Marcus broke 3 days later. Someone, probably Derek, trying to control the damage, leaked it to a tabloid blogger. Inheritance battle takes twisted turn. Family hired spy to seduce heir. The article painted Marcus as a desperate social worker manipulated by the evil Lawson family. It painted Kara as a naive victim, too trusting and lonely to see she was being used. The humiliation was complete and public. Comments flooded in. Imagine being so pathetic that a man had to be paid to pretend to like you. She really thought someone would want her for her personality, LMAO. This is what happens when you try to steal from your betters. The universe humbles you. Kara stopped reading, but the words had already burrowed into her brain. Jamie tried to comfort her. Those people are trolls. They don't know you. But Kara was starting to believe they did know her. Know the truth about her. That she was exactly what Patricia had always said, not good enough, not really family, not deserving of love or money or anything else. Work became impossible. Customers came into chapter and verse just to gawk at the woman who had been so desperate for affection that she fell for a paid actor. Someone posted a photo of Kara shelving books with the caption, "When you're sitting on 350 million, but still working retail for the aesthetic." Leonard pulled her aside on Friday. His face was pained. "Kara, I'm so sorry. But the owner called. Corporate is concerned about the publicity affecting business. They want you to take a leave of absence until the trial is over. They're firing me. It's a leave of absence. Your job will be here when. It's fine." Kara untied her apron and handed it to him. "I understand." "Kara, wait." But she was already walking out. Without her job, Kara had no routine. No reason to leave her apartment. No distraction from the nightmare her life had become. She spent days in bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to remember why she was fighting. Elizabeth would want her to fight. Elizabeth would want her to be strong. But Elizabeth was dead, and Kara was so tired of being strong. Her savings were almost gone. Rent, moving costs, legal fees not covered by the estate, food, utilities, it all added up. She had maybe $2,000 left. Enough for one more month if she was careful. She had $350 million, and she was about to be broke. The irony would have been funny if she had any laughter left. Patricia's lawyers filed new motions, trying to get Marcus's testimony thrown out. They claimed he was lying to save himself from potential criminal charges. They claimed Kara had seduced him and convinced him to make false allegations. They twisted everything, the way they twisted everything. Mr. Green fought back, but Kara could hear the exhaustion in his voice too. This case was consuming everyone it touched. "The trial starts in 3 weeks," he told her. "We're in the final stretch. Can you hold on?" "I don't know," Kara said honestly. She stopped answering calls. Stopped checking texts. Stopped engaging with the world entirely. Jamie showed up at her apartment one evening, worried because Kara hadn't responded to messages in 4 days. "You look terrible," Jamie said, taking in Kara's unwashed hair, her rumpled clothes, the fact that the apartment was dark even though it was 7 p.m. "Thanks. Have you eaten today?" Kara couldn't remember. Jamie went to the kitchen and opened the nearly empty refrigerator. "Kara, you have to take care of yourself." "Why?" "Because you matter. Because you're going to win this case and you need to be alive to see it." "What if I don't win? What if Patricia was right all along and I'm just a manipulative gold digger who doesn't deserve anything?" "Stop it. You know that's not true." But Kara didn't know. She didn't know anything anymore except that she was drowning and nobody could save her. Jamie stayed the night, sleeping on the floor beside Kara's mattress. In the morning, she made Kara eat toast and take a shower. "You're going to survive this," Jamie said firmly. "You're going to win, and then you're going to build an amazing life, and Patricia is going to choke on her regret." Kara wanted to believe her. But belief required hope, and Kara's hope had died somewhere between Marcus's betrayal and the comments calling her pathetic. 2 weeks before trial, Mr. Green called with more bad news. Patricia's team found a witness. A woman named Carol Henderson who says she was Elizabeth's friend. She's claiming Elizabeth told her she felt pressured by you to cut the family out of the will. I've never heard of Carol Henderson. She says she and Elizabeth had lunch once a month for years. That's impossible. I knew all of Elizabeth's friends. There was no Carol. She has photos of her and Elizabeth at a restaurant. Dated from 2 years ago. Kara felt sick. It's fake. It has to be fake. Maybe, but we have to depose her. We have to take it seriously. Another lie to fight. Another battle to wage. Another piece of evidence that Kara's life was just an endless series of people trying to destroy her. That night, Kara stood at her apartment window, the new one, not broken, and looked down at the street 4 floors below. She thought about how easy it would be to stop fighting, to just let Patricia have the money, to disappear somewhere nobody knew her name or her story. She thought about Elizabeth, about the letter she had left. Don't let them make you small. But Kara felt microscopic. She felt like she was disappearing already. Her phone rang. Mr. Green. I'm not giving up, she told him before he could speak. Good. Because I have someone here who wants to talk to you. There was a pause, then a familiar voice. Kara? It's Maria. Miss Elizabeth's housekeeper. Mr. Green told me what's happening. Told me you're struggling. I want to testify. I want to tell the court what I saw all those years. How much Miss Elizabeth loved you. How cruel that family was to both of you. Will you let me help? Kara's throat closed. Maria, who had nothing to gain. Maria, who was risking Patricia's wrath to stand up for the truth. Why would you do that? Kara whispered. Because Miss Elizabeth would want me to. Because you were like a daughter to me too, watching you grow up in that house. Because what they're doing to you is evil and I won't stay silent. Another person choosing kindness. Another person being brave when Kara felt like a coward. Thank you, Kara managed. You hold on, Mija. Just hold on a little longer. The truth is going to win. When Kara hung up, she cried. But for the first time in weeks, they weren't tears of despair. They were tears of something that might, possibly, be the smallest spark of hope. She had lost almost everything. Her job. Her home. Her savings. Her trust. Her dignity. But she hadn't lost everyone. Jamie was still there. Leonard had fought for her as long as he could. Maria was willing to testify. Mr. Green believed in her. And somewhere, wherever Elizabeth was, Kara had to believe she was still fighting too. 3 weeks until trial. 3 weeks until the truth came out. 3 weeks until Kara either won everything or lost herself completely. She had to survive 3 more weeks. Just 3 more weeks. She could do that. She had to. The week before trial, Kara woke up to an eviction notice slipped under her door. She hadn't paid rent. She had forgotten completely. The money was just gone, spent on deposits and moving costs and food and the 100 small expenses of existing while being destroyed publicly. She had $47 in her checking account. She had $350 million she couldn't access without breaking her promise to herself. Kara sat on the floor holding the eviction notice and realized she had reached the actual bottom. Not the metaphorical bottom. The real one. She could call Mr. Green. The estate could pay for an apartment, for food, for everything. But that meant going public with the money. That meant everyone knowing she had been secretly wealthy this whole time while playing poor. The press would eviscerate her. Patricia would claim it proved Kara was manipulative and calculating. The court of public opinion would turn even more viciously against her. But if she didn't access the money, she would be homeless in 7 days. Kara stared at the choice in front of her. Reveal the truth and lose the moral high ground, or keep the secret and lose everything else. Her phone rang. Jamie. I'm coming over. Don't argue. 20 minutes later, Jamie walked in with grocery bags and a determined expression. You're moving in with me, Jamie announced. My roommate just moved out. The room is yours. I'm not taking no for an answer. Jamie, I can't pay rent right now. I can barely. Did I ask you to pay rent? You're my friend. You're going through hell. You need help. I'm helping. End of discussion. Kara burst into tears. Why are you doing this? Because when I started at the bookstore, I was a mess. Fresh out of a bad relationship, barely holding it together. You were kind to me every single day. You listened when I needed to talk. You covered my shifts when I couldn't get out of bed. You never asked for anything in return. This is me returning the favor. Another person being kind. Another person seeing Kara as worth saving. I don't deserve you, Kara whispered. Yeah, you do. Pack your stuff. We're doing this today. Moving into Jamie's apartment felt like a small resurrection. The room was tiny but clean. There was food in the refrigerator. Jamie's other friends came over and treated Kara like a normal person, not a scandal. One of them, a law student named Tasha, had actually been following the case. Your aunt is full of it, Tasha said bluntly over pizza that night. I read the public filings. Her case is all emotion and no evidence. She's going to lose. You really think so? Kara asked. I know so. Undue influence requires proof of pressure, isolation, and vulnerability. Your lawyer has medical records proving Elizabeth was competent. He has testimony from multiple witnesses that you didn't isolate her. He has video of Elizabeth explicitly stating her wishes. Patricia has what? A fake friend who magically appeared and some distant relatives who barely knew Elizabeth? She's got nothing. It was the first time someone had broken down the legal case in terms that made sense. The first time Kara understood that maybe, possibly, the law was actually on her side. Plus, Tasha continued, the Marcus thing actually helps you. It proves Patricia was willing to commit fraud. That undermines her entire credibility. I hate that his betrayal is what saves me, Kara said quietly. I get that. But sometimes the trash takes itself out in a way that benefits you. Accept the win. That night, lying in an actual bed with clean sheets in a safe place, Kara felt something shifting inside her. She had spent months trying to see who would value her when she had nothing. And she had her answer. Jamie valued her. Leonard had valued her. Maria valued her. Even Marcus, in his twisted way, had eventually chosen truth over money. But more importantly, Kara was starting to value herself again. Not because of the inheritance. Not because of Elizabeth's love, though that mattered. But because she had survived. She had been torn apart by her family, betrayed by someone she trusted, humiliated publicly, and pushed to the edge of despair. And she was still here. Still fighting. Still standing. The next morning, Kara called Mr. Green. I want to testify, she said. Kara, you don't have to. It's risky. Patricia's lawyers will cross-examine you. They'll try to break you. Let them try. I've been broken by experts. I'm still here. I want to tell my story. I want to look Patricia in the eye and tell the truth about who Elizabeth was and who I am. Mr. Green was quiet for a moment. You sound different. I feel different. I'm done being a victim. I'm done letting them control the narrative. This is my life. My relationship with Elizabeth. My inheritance. And I'm going to fight for it. Then let's fight. They spent the next 3 days preparing. Mr. Green walked Kara through every possible question Patricia's lawyers might ask. Every attack they might make. Every way they might try to twist her words. And Kara practiced answering with truth. Simple, clear, unshakable truth. The day before trial, Maria came to visit. She brought a box of Elizabeth's things that she had saved. Miss Elizabeth wanted you to have these, Maria said. I was keeping them safe until the right time. I think that time is now. Inside were photos. Elizabeth and Kara at Kara's high school graduation. At her college graduation. On vacation together. Baking Christmas cookies. Reading in the garden. 1,000 small moments of genuine love and joy. At the bottom was a journal. Elizabeth's handwriting filled the pages. She started this when you were 10, Maria said. She wrote about you almost every day. About how proud she was. How much she loved you. How you were the best thing that ever happened to her. Mr. Green says you can submit it as evidence if you want. Kara flipped through the pages, reading entries at random. Kara got an A on her history test. She worked so hard. I'm so proud of her. Kara made me laugh today. Really laugh, for the first time since my daughter died. She's healing my broken heart. Patricia came by and made a comment about Kara's hair. I asked her to leave. I will not have anyone making my daughter feel less than perfect exactly as she is. I'm changing my will today. Everything to Kara. She's my daughter in every way that matters. Blood is just biology. Love is what makes a family. Kara read that entry 3 times. Love is what makes a family. That was the truth. That was what this whole case was really about. Patricia believed blood made family. That DNA and genetics and ancestral lines were what mattered. Elizabeth had believed love made family. That choice and commitment and showing up every day were what mattered. The court was about to decide which version of family was real. But Kara already knew. She had known since she was 4 years old, and Elizabeth had looked at her in a foster care office and said, "I choose you." She had known through every birthday and holiday and ordinary Tuesday. She had known when Elizabeth held her hand through chemotherapy and whispered, "You're my greatest joy." And she knew now, standing on the edge of the biggest fight of her life. Love made family. And Kara was Elizabeth's family. Tomorrow, she will prove it. The courtroom was packed. Every seat in the gallery filled with reporters, bloggers, curious onlookers, and people who had followed the case online and wanted to see the ending in person. Patricia sat at the plaintiff's table in an expensive black suit, her face composed in an expression of dignified grief. Derek sat beside her, stone-faced. Margaret, Thomas, Amanda, and 6 other relatives filled the rows behind them. A united front of family solidarity. Kara sat at the defendant's table with Mr. Green. Jamie sat directly behind her in the front row of the gallery. Maria sat beside Jamie, clutching a rosary. Judge Catherine Reynolds entered. The bailiff called the court to order. "We're here for the matter of Lawson family versus the estate of Elizabeth Lawson," Judge Reynolds said. "Mr. Jameson, you may present your opening statement." Patricia's lawyer stood. He was polished and confident as he addressed the court. "Your Honor, this case is about an elderly woman who was isolated, manipulated, and exploited by someone she tried to help. Elizabeth Lawson adopted Kara when she was vulnerable from grief over losing her biological daughter. She gave Kara everything: a home, education, opportunities. But Kara repaid that generosity by systematically cutting Elizabeth off from her blood family, controlling her medical care, and influencing her to change her will. We will prove that the will does not reflect Elizabeth's true wishes, but rather the undue influence of a calculating opportunist." The words stung, but Kara kept her face neutral. Mr. Green stood for his opening. "Your Honor, this case is actually very simple. Elizabeth Lawson was a brilliant, competent woman who made a choice. She chose to adopt Kara. She chose to love her as a daughter. And she chose to leave her estate to the person who loved her back unconditionally. The plaintiff's family wasn't excluded by Kara. They excluded themselves through years of neglect. Now that Elizabeth is gone and can't defend her decision, they're trying to steal her final gift to her daughter. We will prove that Elizabeth's will is valid, that Kara never manipulated her, and that this contest is nothing more than greed masquerading as concern." Patricia's team went first. They called their fake witness, Carol Henderson, who testified about having lunch with Elizabeth and hearing her express doubts about Kara. On cross-examination, Mr. Green destroyed her. "You say you had lunch with Elizabeth monthly for years?" "Yes. Yet Elizabeth's personal calendar, which she kept meticulously, shows no record of meetings with you." Carol stammered. "Maybe she didn't write them all down." And these photos you submitted, when were they taken? 2 years ago, like I said. Interesting. Because the metadata on the digital files shows they were created 3 weeks ago. These aren't old photos. They're recent photos that you're claiming are old. You're committing perjury. Carol's face went white. Jameson objected, but the damage was done. Judge Reynolds looked at Carol with open disdain. I'll be referring this matter to the district attorney. You're dismissed. Carol fled the courtroom. Patricia's face remained impassive, but Kara saw the tiny muscle twitching in her jaw. They called other witnesses, distant relatives who claimed Elizabeth had seemed different around Kara, neighbors who said they rarely saw other visitors. All of it was weak and circumstantial. Then Mr. Green presented his case. First, Elizabeth's doctors testified about her complete mental competence right up until the end. Then Elizabeth's friends, her real friends, testified about how much she loved Kara and how rarely Patricia visited. Then Maria took the stand. How long did you work for Elizabeth Lawson? Mr. Green asked. 23 years. From when she first adopted Kara until she died. How often did Patricia Lawson visit Elizabeth in the last 5 years? Maybe 5 times total. Always around holidays. Never stayed more than an hour. Never called between visits. And how often was Kara there? Maria's eyes filled with tears. Every single day. When Miss Elizabeth got sick, Kara moved back home to take care of her. She bathed her, fed her, read to her, held her when she was in pain. She loved Miss Elizabeth with her whole heart. Did you ever witness Kara pressuring Elizabeth about the will or money? Never. Miss Elizabeth made her own decisions. She told me many times that Kara was the daughter of her heart and deserved everything. Patricia's lawyer cross-examined aggressively, but Maria didn't budge. Then Mr. Green called his bombshell witness. I call Marcus Webb. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Marcus walked in, nervous but determined. He wouldn't look at Kara. Mr. Webb, how do you know the defendant? I was hired by Derek Lawson to get close to her and spy on her legal strategy. Patricia shot to her feet. That's a lie. Judge Reynolds banged her gavel. Sit down, Ms. Lawson. Mr. Green submitted the text messages, the recordings, the evidence of Derek offering Marcus money. The judge reviewed them, her expression growing darker with each page. This is evidence of fraud and witness tampering, Judge Reynolds said coldly. Mr. Jameson, did you know about this? Jameson looked genuinely shocked. No, Your Honor. This is the first I'm hearing of it. Your client's son conspired to corrupt this proceeding. That reflects directly on the credibility of this entire contest. Patricia was whispering urgently to Derek, who looked panicked. Then Mr. Green played Elizabeth's video testimony. The courtroom went silent as Elizabeth appeared on screen, thin from illness, but clear-eyed and fierce. My name is Elizabeth Lawson. I'm making this statement because I know my family will try to take everything from Kara when I'm gone. They've never accepted her as real family. They've treated her like an obligation, a charity case, something less than them. But Kara is my daughter. She's the person who brought joy back into my life after I lost everything. She loved me not because of my money or my name, but because of who I was. That's real family. That's real love. I'm leaving everything to Kara because she deserves it. Because she earned it through years of genuine devotion. Anyone who contests this will is proving exactly why they don't deserve a penny. Kara, if you're watching this, don't let them make you small. You are enough. You always were. Several people in the courtroom were crying. The judge's expression was unreadable. Then Mr. Green called Kara. She walked to the stand on shaking legs. The bailiff swore her in. She sat down and looked directly at Patricia for the first time since the trial began. Miss Lawson, did you manipulate Elizabeth into leaving you her estate? Mr. Green asked. No. She made that decision herself when I was 18. She told me she wanted me to be secure, to never have to depend on people who didn't value me. Did you isolate her from her family? No. I encouraged her to see them. She made excuses for them when they didn't show up. She was hurt every time they forgot her birthday or canceled plans. But she loved them anyway and kept hoping they would love her back. Why do you think Patricia is contesting the will? Because she believes blood makes family. She believes I don't deserve what Elizabeth left me because I'm adopted. But Elizabeth believed love makes family. She chose me. And I chose her right back, every single day for 23 years. Jameson cross-examined her, trying to find cracks in her story. But Kara had lived the story. She knew every moment of it. She answered every question with simple truth. You stand to gain $350 million from Elizabeth's death. Doesn't that benefit you enormously? Elizabeth's death destroyed me. I would give every penny back to have one more day with her. The money doesn't make up for losing my mother. Nothing could. But you're still fighting for the money. I'm fighting for Elizabeth's choice. I'm fighting for her right to decide who deserved her legacy. I'm fighting because letting Patricia steal this would dishonor everything Elizabeth believed about love and family. When Kara stepped down, she felt lighter. She had told the truth. She had honored Elizabeth. Whatever happened next, she had done everything she could. Judge Reynolds reviewed the evidence for what felt like hours. Then she looked up. I've seen a lot of will contests in my career. Most of them are exactly what this one appears to be: family members angry about being excluded, trying to use the legal system to override the deceased's wishes. The evidence here is overwhelming. Elizabeth Lawson was competent, clear, and adamant about her wishes. She loved Kara as her daughter and wanted her to inherit. The plaintiff's case rests entirely on the premise that adoption doesn't create real family bonds. I reject that premise completely. Patricia's face went ashen. Furthermore, Judge Reynolds continued, the evidence of fraud, Derek Lawson hiring someone to seduce and spy on the defendant, is deeply troubling. It suggests the plaintiff's family was willing to break the law to win this case. That undermines their credibility entirely. She banged her gavel. The will contest is dismissed. The estate passes to Kara Lawson as Elizabeth intended. Furthermore, I'm awarding sanctions against the plaintiff for bringing a frivolous lawsuit and for the fraud perpetrated by Derek Lawson. The plaintiff will pay Kara's legal fees and a penalty of $2 million. This case is closed. The gavel came down like thunder. Kara burst into tears. Jamie grabbed her from behind the rail, hugging her tight. Maria was sobbing. Mr. Green was smiling. Patricia sat frozen, her carefully composed mask finally cracking. Derek's head was in his hands. The relatives behind them looked stunned. Reporters rushed out to file their stories. Camera flashes went off everywhere. Kara had won. Elizabeth's choice had been honored. Love had defeated blood. As they walked out of the courtroom, Patricia tried one last time. This isn't over, she hissed at Kara. We'll appeal. We'll. No, you won't, Mr. Green said calmly. Because if you do, I'll pursue criminal charges against Derek for fraud. I'll file a civil suit for the emotional distress you caused Kara. I'll make your life a legal nightmare. This is over, Ms. Lawson. You lost. Accept it with whatever dignity you have left. Patricia's mouth opened and closed. Then she turned and walked away, her family trailing behind her like defeated soldiers. Kara stood on the courthouse steps, surrounded by cameras, and felt something she hadn't felt in months. Peace. How does it feel to win? A reporter shouted. Kara looked directly into the camera. It feels like justice. My mother loved me. She chose me. And now the whole world knows that family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up. Who stays? Who loves you when it's hard? That's what Elizabeth taught me. That's what I'll carry forward. The reporters ate it up. And Kara, for the first time since Elizabeth died, smiled. A real smile. Because she had survived. And she had won. 6 months after the trial, Kara stood in the main hall of Elizabeth's estate, her estate now, and watched as contractors put the finishing touches on the renovations. The mansion had been transformed. Half of it remained a private residence where Kara now lived. The other half had been converted into transitional housing for young adults aging out of foster care. 12 bedrooms, each with its own bathroom. A communal kitchen and living area. A library filled with books. A counseling center staffed with social workers. It was called Elizabeth's house. A place where kids who had nowhere to go could live for free while they finished school, found jobs, and built independent lives. The first residents were moving in today. Maria walked up beside Kara, wiping tears from her eyes. Miss Elizabeth would love this. She always said this house was too big for one person. Now it's home for 13, Kara said, smiling. Feels right. Maria had stayed on as the house manager, overseeing the daily operations. She had also received a generous bonus from the estate, enough to pay off her mortgage and send her grandchildren to college. Kara had insisted. Jamie appeared with a clipboard, coordinating the move-in schedule. She had become the program director for Elizabeth's house, leaving the bookstore to work full-time on Kara's foundation. Her salary was triple what she had made before, with benefits and the knowledge that she was changing lives. First family is here, Jamie announced. Twins, 18, just aged out of the system. They're terrified and trying not to show it. Kara remembered that feeling. Being terrified and alone and trying to pretend you were fine. Let's go welcome them home, Kara said. The twins, Marcus and Aria, stood in the foyer with garbage bags containing their belongings. They looked at the chandelier, the marble floors, the grand staircase like they had entered a different universe. You must be Marcus and Aria, Kara said warmly. I'm Kara. This is your home now. Let me show you your rooms. She led them upstairs, watching their faces as they saw the bedrooms, each one larger than most foster care placements, with new furniture, fresh paint, and windows that actually opened. This is really ours? Aria whispered. Really yours. Rent free while you're in school or job training. All we ask is that you respect the space, follow the house rules, and show up for weekly counseling sessions. We want to help you build the life you deserve. Marcus, a different Marcus, one who deserved the name, looked at Kara with tears in his eyes. Why are you doing this? Because someone did it for me once, Kara said simply. And now it's my turn to pay it forward. The Elizabeth Lawson Foundation had become Kara's full-time focus. Beyond the transitional housing, she had endowed scholarships for adopted children, funded foster care reform initiatives, and partnered with organizations working to keep siblings together in the system. She had given $50 million to various causes in the first 6 months alone. It barely made a dent in her wealth. Leonard had become an advisor for the Foundation's literacy programs. He helped Kara open 3 community libraries in underserved neighborhoods, each one offering free books, tutoring, and after-school programs. He had also finally retired from the bookstore and sold it to Kara, who kept it running exactly as it had been. Chapter and Verse became a community hub, hosting author events and reading groups and writing workshops. It didn't make money, Kara didn't need it to. It just needed to exist as a place where stories mattered. The people who had been kind when Kara had nothing were the people she chose to build with now that she had everything. As for the people who had been cruel, Patricia's appeal had been denied within 6 weeks. Her lawyer bills had bankrupted her. She had been forced to sell her house and move into a modest condo. Derek was facing criminal charges for the Marcus scheme and had been fired from his father's company. Margaret had stopped speaking to Patricia entirely, blaming her for dragging the family through public humiliation. The relatives who had lined up behind Patricia during the trial had all reached out to Kara after she won, apologizing, explaining, begging for help with various financial emergencies. Kara had responded to each one with the same message: no. Amanda, Patricia's daughter, had shown up at Elizabeth's house 3 months after the trial. She was 24, pregnant, and desperate. "My mom cut me off," Amanda said, standing in the foyer where she had once stood in solidarity with Patricia's lies. "She's furious I reached out to you. But I'm about to have a baby and I have nowhere to go. I know I don't deserve your help. I stood with her during the trial. I believed her lies. But I'm asking anyway. Please." Kara could have said no. Amanda had chosen Patricia's side. She had nodded along with every accusation. She had looked at Kara with disgust and contempt. But Amanda was also 24 and pregnant and scared. She was about to become a mother with no support system. Kara thought about what Elizabeth would do. "You can stay in the guest house," Kara said finally. "Not in the main residence with the program kids. But the guest house is empty. You can live there until the baby comes and you figure out your next steps. I'll help you find job training and childcare resources. But Amanda, if you ever lie about me or try to manipulate me the way your mother did, you're gone immediately." "Understood." Amanda burst into tears. "Understood. Thank you. I'm so sorry for everything." "I'm not doing this for you," Kara said. "I'm doing it for your baby. Every child deserves a stable start. Even children born to people who hurt me." That was the difference between Kara and Patricia. Patricia believed love was conditional on blood and loyalty. Kara believed love was a choice you made every day, even when it was hard. Amanda had proven to be genuinely remorseful. She helped with the foundation's administrative work, lived quietly in the guest house, and never asked for more than Kara offered. When her daughter was born, she named her Elizabeth. "If that's okay," Amanda said nervously when Kara visited the hospital. Kara looked at the tiny baby and felt something crack open in her chest. "It's more than okay. It's perfect." One person from the trial had surprised Kara with his persistence: Marcus Webb, the original one. He had sent her a letter every week for 6 months. Not asking for forgiveness. Not making excuses. Just updating her on his life and telling her he was in therapy working through why he had made such a terrible choice. "I'm not asking you to respond," his latest letter read. "I just want you to know that meeting you changed my life. Not because of the case or the money or any of that, but because you showed me what real integrity looks like. You fought for what was right even when it cost you everything. I want to be that kind of person. I'm trying to become that kind of person. Thank you for that gift, even though I didn't deserve it." Kara had kept every letter in a box. She hadn't responded to any of them. But today, 6 months after the trial, she sat down and wrote back. "Marcus, I forgive you. Not because what you did was okay, it wasn't. But because holding on to anger was hurting me more than it was hurting you. You made a terrible choice. You owned it. You tried to make it right. That's more than most people do. I hope you become the person you want to be. I hope your work with foster kids continues to be meaningful. I hope you find peace. I'm finding mine. Take care, Kara." She mailed it and felt a weight lift. Forgiveness didn't mean reconciliation. It didn't mean Marcus would be part of her life. It just meant she was letting go of the pain he had caused. She had more important things to focus on, like the gala happening next week to celebrate the Foundation's first 6 months. Like the interview she had scheduled with a major network to talk about foster care reform. Like the book she was writing about Elizabeth's life and legacy. Like building a life that honored the woman who had chosen her. That evening, Kara sat in Elizabeth's garden, her garden now, and read from Elizabeth's journal. She did this every night, reading one entry, remembering one moment, keeping Elizabeth alive in her heart. Tonight's entry was from Kara's 16th birthday. Kara is 16 today. I gave her my grandmother's necklace, the one I thought I'd pass to my biological daughter. Patricia made a comment about it being inappropriate to give family heirlooms to an adopted child. I told her to leave and not come back until she could treat Kara with respect. She hasn't come back. I'm not sorry. Kara is my family. My real family. And I will protect her from anyone who tries to make her feel otherwise. Kara touched the necklace at her throat. She wore it every day. Her phone rang. Jamie, turn on the news. Channel 7. Kara found a TV and turned it on. A story was running about Elizabeth's house and the foundation. The reporter was interviewing one of the residents, Marcus the twin, who was talking about having a safe place to live while finishing his degree. Kara Lawson could have taken her inheritance and disappeared, the reporter said into the camera. Instead, she's using it to transform the foster care system. She's housing young adults aging out of care. She's funding scholarships. She's fighting for legislative reform. She's turning personal pain into public good. That's the real story of the Lawson inheritance, not the family fight, but what came after. Kara smiled. That was exactly right. The fight with Patricia had never been the story. Elizabeth's love had been the story. And now, Kara's choice to honor that love by helping others was the story. She turned off the TV and walked back to the garden. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Elizabeth had loved sunsets. She had said they proved that endings could be beautiful. Kara sat on the bench where she and Elizabeth had spent countless evenings and felt her mother's presence. Not literally, Kara didn't believe in ghosts. But in the way the garden still smelled like Elizabeth's favorite roses. In the way the bench still creaked in the same spot. In the way love lingered even after the person was gone. I did it, Mom, Kara whispered. I didn't let them make me small. I fought for your choice. And now I'm building something that matters. Something that would make you proud. The wind rustled through the roses, and Kara chose to believe it was Elizabeth's way of saying she knew. $350 million hadn't bought Kara happiness. But it had bought her freedom. Freedom to help people. Freedom to build a legacy. Freedom to prove that the dismissed adopted daughter was exactly who Elizabeth had always said she was. Enough. More than enough. Extraordinary. Kara's phone buzzed with a text from Tasha, Jamie's law student friend who had helped her understand the case. Saw you on the news. You're changing the world. Coffee next week to celebrate? Kara smiled and typed back. Absolutely. My treat. She had people now. Real people who valued her for who she was. A found family built on choice and loyalty and genuine care. That was Elizabeth's real gift. Not the money, though the money helped. The real gift was showing Kara that she deserved to be chosen. That her worth wasn't dependent on blood or biology or being perfect. Her worth was inherent. And now Kara was spending the rest of her life making sure other kids learned that lesson too. She stood up from the bench and walked back to the house, her house, Elizabeth's house, a house that now held 12 young people building new lives. Tomorrow she would change more lives. But tonight she would rest. And for the first time since Elizabeth died, Kara felt something close to joy. So that's Kara's story. From the dismissed adopted daughter standing in a lawyer's office to the woman who built an empire of kindness on her mother's legacy. Patricia wanted to prove that blood makes family. Kara proved that love makes family. And in the end, love won. If this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. I've got more stories about people who refused to stay down when the world tried to break them. Stories about justice, redemption, and the power of choosing yourself. Drop a comment and tell me what you would do with $350 million. Would you build something like Kara did? Or would you disappear to an island somewhere? No judgment either way. And here's something to think about. Kara spent 6 months living in poverty while sitting on a fortune just to see who would treat her right. She found out that the people worth keeping were the ones who valued her when she had nothing. That's a lesson worth remembering. The people who love you at your lowest are the people who deserve you at your highest. Thanks for sticking with this story. Thanks for being here. Whether you're watching from your living room or your car or your phone at work, I appreciate you. You're part of this community, and that matters. Take care of yourselves. Be kind to people. Remember that family is who you choose, not just who you're born to. And if you're out there feeling like you don't belong, like you're not enough, like nobody sees you, I see you. You matter. You're worth choosing. I'll see you in the next story. Until then, keep fighting for what's right. Keep honoring the people who believed in you. And keep building lives that make them proud. Peace.